And the Senate ought to deal with it as though it's a setup. If she doesn't show up, then go ahead with the vote. And now the accuser is saying she can't show up. She won't show up until the FBI investigates. Ladies and gentlemen, the whole business of the FBI investigating something 36 years old is dubious at best. But beyond that, accusers don't get to set the date of investigations. Accusers don't get to set the terms of the investigation unless they happen to be Hillary Clinton. I mean, Hillary Clinton was able to tell Comey when she would and wouldn't sit for an interview from which she was going to be exonerated anyway, in her whole email situation. But I mean, it's abundantly obvious what's going on here. Let me ask you a question. Let me put it to you this way. What would happen, let's say, I don't know, in the last 10 years up to last week, if any woman had walked into any FBI office in the country and said the following: "Hi, I'm here to report that I was abused 35 years ago. I was at a party. I was 15. I had a little bit to drink, and a 17-year-old guy pushed me down on top of a table and laid on top of me, and then I think a friend came in and did something, and anyway, they left, and I was left locked in a room. And I want you to investigate. You think if somebody shows up to an FBI office with that story, if they show up in person with that story, that the FBI is going to give it any time whatsoever? The agents are going to look at each other with kind of wary eyes, and they're going to crack silent jokes to one another. No, I'm not kidding. You take this out of the realm of a letter to a crazed partisan United States Senator, Dianne Feinstein, and just move this into the victim walking into an FBI office. By the 35 years ago, 25, I'm not sure where, but I know that when I was 15, I was at a party and some guy jumped on top of me. So let's say the FBI agent decides to actually take this further, and in a very respectful way says, well, miss, were you raped or injured? No, not really. Did you report this or tell anyone at the time, 36, 35 years ago? No. What year was this again that this happened? I'm not sure. I think it was 1982. Where did this? I don't know. I was so traumatized, I don't remember any of it. I just remember some guy jumping on me, and I was drunk, and he would, but I want you to investigate it. Okay, ma'am, were there any witnesses? Just the one friend of his that pushed him off, and then they left before he could do anything. What would the FBI do with this if that scenario happened in one of their field offices? I will tell you what they would do. Zip, zero, nada. And the reason for bringing it up this way is to try to shine some kind of a different light on this and try to put this kind of allegation in some kind of context. Now, by the way, welcome. It's great to have you back as always. Rush Limbaugh, the EIB network, and at 800-282-2882. The president is handling this in a quite fascinating way. He's saying, I hope she shows up. I want to hear what she has to say. I really hope she shows up. I'm very interested in what she has to say. We all are. And if she shows up and if she's credible, why, then we're going to have to do something about that. Meaning he might have to turn Kavanaugh loose. So Trump's out there allowing for the possibility that the woman is telling the truth and has a credible story that would be believable. And that if it is, then he might have no choice but then to jettison Kavanaugh and look for somebody else. Now, what do you think Trump's doing there, Dawn? Look, you look disappointed. What do you think Trump's doing? Well, see, this woman is saying she's not showing up until the FBI investigates. There's nothing for any investigative agency to investigate. This is never going to be anything more than he said, she said. That's all it's ever going to be. The FBI can't investigate. She doesn't even remember where it was. She doesn't even remember to tell them where to go. She doesn't even remember for sure what year it was. She doesn't even remember how many people might have been in the room. How in the world is anybody going to investigate this? So the Trumpster, who, by the way, folks, before this gets lost in the unfolding of the broadcast today, President Trump is doing a bang-up job on the recovery from Hurricane Florence in North Carolina. I mean to tell you, he's there right now. He had an all-points meeting today with local and state officials about the plan going forward to facilitate all of the combined efforts of state, local, and federal to bring this part of the country back. Senator Richard Burr, who is chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, he is from North Carolina, and he just said that in 25 years of dealing with disasters in North Carolina, he has never seen the preparation, the coordination, the collaboration of state and local governments with the federal government prior to an event in any way approaching this. This is so far and away much better coordinated. Prep is much better. The work on the ground already began before the storm hit. People are in place now, ready to get in gear. Trump is standing, he was moments ago, he's at a distribution aid center. And people are driving through in their vehicles and picking up aid. People are passing things to them over the open windows of their cars. And Trump's standing right there greeting people as they drive through. And he's chatting with, these are people who have lost everything, and they've got smiles on their faces, and Donald Trump's chatting them up, and they appear to be very happy. And I will wager that those pictures have the left in a tizzy. Those pictures are destroying the left even more. They're expecting and hoping these people will be throwing things at Trump and flipping Trump the middle finger, the famous flying fickle finger middle bird there. And they're hoping that they would be cursing Trump. But instead, they're enjoying the chance to chat with Trump. And he's smiling, and they're getting aid as they drive through. And it's obvious that they believe he really cares about their plight because he's standing there and talking to them. How many of you, just to illustrate a point here, how many of you have heard any ongoing complaints, stories of woe out of Houston after the hurricane Harvey? No one mentions that storm anymore. Nobody mentions that storm ever anymore. And believe me, if fault could be found, they would find it because the drive-bys have been looking for Trump's Katrina with every storm that's come along, including Hurricane Florence. But the federal government and Trump, coordinating with state and local people in Texas and in Houston, did a great job down there, not to mention J.J. Watt's campaign that raised $35 million. Defensive end pass rushing specialist for the Houston Texans. So Trump is now in North Carolina, South Carolina, doing another great job. There is not a whisper of negatives regarding his administration's efforts on the behalf of people hurt by the weather. Trump is a natural leader. He shows it in the midst of crisis. And he's got to deal with local and state officials as best he can. They're working as hard as they can to get relief aid and, of course, actual insurance-type cash payments to people. But I really think that Trump's natural ability, his proclivity, tendency to handle this with aplomb, with confidence, is just another reason the leftists are so crazed. And speaking of leftists being crazed, I have spent many, many moons on this program detailing for you what I think is an absolute crack-up, the deep state and the media over this totally phony investigation into Trump and collusion with Russia. And I've done my best to express how genuinely outrageous and beyond that it is. How unprecedented it is. In terms of arraying the forces of the federal government against a singular person in presidential campaign and in presidency. We're in the middle of it. We follow it each and every day, so the impact may be not as great as it should be, but this is a genuine abomination, what is happening here, and what has happened to Donald Trump for the past 2 years. I have a story here, actually a column. It's by Julie Kelly at AmericanGreatness.com, and the title of her piece, Media Continues Its Slow Suicide. And her opinion is that despite the appearance, despite how it looks on television every day, that the media and their partners, their willing accomplices, are in the process of destroying themselves. They are destroying respectability. They are destroying their own credibility. They are in the process of literally a death spiral because of their contempt for Trump and their efforts to destroy a duly elected president. Now, I realize a lot of you are not, that's crazy. Media is not destroying itself. Media is only destroying Trump, only destroying Republicans. Media isn't hurting itself. I know it's hard to see. And I know it doesn't feel like the media is losing anything. And I know things look depressing. That's by design. But the drive-by media and the Democrat Party are on the same desperate mission. And it is a death spiral fight for survival for them right now. They are splashing, smashing out, doing everything they can to save themselves. They do not run Washington. Donald Trump does. They are beside themselves that they haven't been able to take him out. They're beside themselves they haven't been able to drive him out. They're beside themselves that they have not been able to split you away from him. And they're going more and more insane over their failures each and every day. The Woodward book, the Omarosa stuff, all of this has come, and Trump is still there, and he's still leading, and he's still dominating, and he's still triumphing. They've got themselves talked into this business. They're going to win the House. They're going to win the Senate. They're going to impeach Trump. Today, they're going to impeach Kavanaugh. If Kavanaugh gets confirmed, if they're not able to stop this, from Eric Swalwell from California, if Kavanaugh gets confirmed, and as expected, the Democrats win the House and Senate, then we're going to impeach Kavanaugh as well as impeach Trump. They are convinced that what they are doing is lauded and being supported and applauded by the vast majority of the American people. They continue to conduct and publish what I think are crazy polls that they end up believing, just like Hillary believed the polls, that she was going to win in a landslide. The latest poll that I saw is from Reuters Ipsos, and you know what it says? The American public is losing faith fast in Brett Kavanaugh. The American public may not support Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court. Well, that doesn't matter, number one. But number two, I just refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that a majority of the American people are watching what's happening here and supporting it and applauding it. I think that there is so much disgust out there. I think there is so much outrage. I think people are livid at what they're watching being done to Kavanaugh after having seen it happen to Clarence Thomas and Robert Bork, and after having seen this. Kavanaugh is only getting now what Trump gets every day. Trump gets this every day, and I think people are fed up with it. I think a lot of people are fed up with it. I know the polls are out there, Democrats are going to sweep this and that, but then something got in the way, folks. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there was a shocking special election win by a Republican last night in Texas. Voters elected political newcomer Pete Flores to the Texas Senate on Tuesday, flipping a Democrat district red for the first time in 139 years and bolstering Republican supermajority in the chamber ahead of November elections. Now, wait a minute. I thought Beto, whatever his name, was going to beat Cruz, that the Texas Republicans were going to lose Texas, the Senate, and everything else, and that Texas was on the verge of becoming a blue state. Why, that's what all the polls say. Texas is in the middle of going like California and New York and so forth. And then this happened. This is a district that Hillary Clinton won. I forget the majority here, but it's 73% black and Hispanic. It's 23% white privilege, and they elected a Republican. For the first time in 139 years. Pete Flores is a retired game warden. He defeated former state and U.S. Representative Pete Gallego for Texas Senate District number 19 seat after receiving backing from some of the state's most prominent politicians, including Greg Abbott, the governor, Dan Patrick, lieutenant governor, and Senators Cornyn and Cruz. According to the Secretary of State's website, Flores won with 53% of the vote, Gallego at 47%. There were 44,487 ballots cast. This wasn't supposed to happen. Remember, Texas is going blue. This is a blue district in Texas that the Democrats have held for 139 years, and a Republican won it. How in the hell does that happen? Now, my overall point with this is that I think that Julie Kelly has a point. But I have to take a break, as always. We seem right, and I just get revved and ready, and I get right to the sweet spot, and I look at the clock and go, damn it.
Listen to...
I have cited the work of Lee Smith several times. He's worked at a website called, I think, Tablet. His work has appeared a lot of places. He's done some of the best investigative work, along with a lot of other people, in uncovering the hoax and the scam that is the Steele dossier, Papadopoulos, the entire series of lies that Trump colluded with Russia. And he's written a piece called Extinction Level. Well, it's not what it's called, but he describes in this piece what he says is an extinction level event for the media. And it consists of much of what he has been reporting on. Text messages between Strzok, Smirk, and Lisa Page. Just the general collapse in trustworthiness that people have for some of these law enforcement institutions, DOJ, FBI, the intelligence community, and so forth. But Smith believes that the media is in the process of literally crashing and burning here and sacrificing every bit of credibility and reputation they've ever had in service to the advancement of agenda, and that more people than ever before are now seeing what the media is and what it's becoming. And as that continues to expand, they lose more and more credibility and believability. I know it's hard to believe, but there are people out there actively who think this. Welcome back, my friends. Rush Limbaugh, doing what I was born to do, and that's why I have more fun than a human being should be allowed to have each and every day. We'll get back to this media story. It's always going to be here. There is a development here in the Kavanaugh Ballsy story, and that is, well, as you know, what are we going to call her? The accuser? Is that what? The accuser first started out saying that this horrible thing happened, couldn't remember where, not sure the year, not sure the house, and so forth. Can't corroborate anything. Kavanaugh can produce 200 people testifying to his character, 3 or 4 people that can claim that were named that don't even remember the event happening. This woman can't produce any witnesses. Kavanaugh's got a bunch. So the Senate said, okay, well, you know what? We'll delay our vote from Thursday to Monday. Oh, we'll even delay it beyond that. We'll schedule a hearing on Monday where the accuser can come in And Kavanaugh can come in and their lawyers can query each other in the Senate. The senators on the committee will get into the act. And the accuser said, I'm not coming. She didn't respond to the invitation to show up. So people said, well, if she doesn't show up after having been invited, then let's go ahead and schedule the vote and do it tomorrow. This prompted the accuser, whoa, no, I don't think I'm coming until the FBI investigates. Now, I don't care who you are, no accuser gets to determine the scope and the parameters of an investigation. The accuser doesn't get to determine when and who investigates. In no circumstance in the country does that happen. Nowhere. The accuser doesn't get to set the details of this, but that's what she's doing, she and her lawyer. And so now the FBI has got to be brought into this. They don't want to investigate. There's nothing to investigate. She doesn't remember where, when, why. She doesn't remember what year. She doesn't remember who all was there. There's nothing for people 36 years after the fact to investigate beyond what is already happening. It's always going to come down to he said, she said. Then the president got in on a deal and said, I'll tell you, we really hope she shows up. I really want to hear what she has to say. I want to find out if she's credible. I really hope she accepts the invitation of the Senate and shows up on Monday. And if she's credible, why, then we're going to have to perhaps jettison Judge Kavanaugh, pick somebody else. Her lawyers say, nope, we're not showing up Monday. We're not showing up ever until the FBI investigates. This so obviously is a setup. So here is the latest development. Are you ready for this? Senator Grassley. This is according to CNN. CNN has an anonymous source claiming that Senator Grassley is now willing to go to California to interview the accuser. Now, does that mean the entire Senate Judiciary Committee would join Senator Grassley on the Senate charter flight to interview her where she is most comfortable? Would she accept this, or would she continue to say, I'm not doing anything until the FBI investigates? Because it is so obvious that this is a setup. She doesn't want to answer questions, and I don't think ever will. That isn't the point of this. The point of this is to delay this nomination because they really think they're going to win the Senate. There are polls out there that say the Senate is now in play. I think that's one of the reasons Feinstein released this. One of the reasons she held this. Nobody, I will guarantee you. Well, I can't guarantee you, but my intelligence guided by experience, I don't think very many people believe this babe. And I don't even think that's the point. Now, don't tell a lot of people I'm saying this because it'll get me in big trouble. But I don't think too many people really believe her. That's not the point. The option she provides is delay. All her lawyer has to keep saying, I'm not bringing my client forward until the FBI investigates. The FBI, I think the CIA should take a look at it now. Whatever other thing they can come up with to delay, they will. She's not going to show up and answer questions, and I think that's what the president knows. When the president says, I really hope she accepts the invitation. I really hope she shows. I really want to hear what she has to say. And if she's credible, bye-bye, Brett. Well, you know Trump doesn't want to jettison Kavanaugh. So, and don't say this too loudly, but it's obvious some people on our side are trying to goad the babe into showing up. But you don't want to say that too many if you could give it away. You know, we want to continue to play the psychological game here. But I don't think anybody, I don't think Feinstein even let the cat out of the bag. She can't confirm that all of this is truthful. And then she had due damage control to walk that back. Did you hear about that? Whoa. Grab audio soundbite. Where is it? Grab soundbite number 7. This is from yesterday on Capitol Hill. She really blew it on this and immediately had to start walking this back and doing damage control.
This is a woman and I really believe who's been profoundly impacted by this. Now, I can't say everything's truthful. I don't know.
I can't say everything's truthful. Man, you have not seen an 80-year-old woman do a 180 faster than Dianne Feinstein did yesterday, except maybe Ruth Buzzy Ginsburg and her famous workout now that CNN televised. Man, oh man, did that send ripples of panic through the left when Dianne Feinstein said that she's not, I can't say everything's truthful. They don't believe her. I don't think. If they did that, had brought this up, this would have been long ago used. But in the Me Too movement, you simply can't say, you know what, I don't believe you, lady. I just don't. Nobody in politics can say that. We on the radio can say it all day long. But they can't, obviously. So now Grassley has offered to go out to California. Do you think Chuck Grassley really wants to go to California, really wants to interview this babe to find out? They're giving her every opportunity. They're going so far out of their way to be cooperative. Can you think of any other Senate witness where the committee chairman is offered to go to them in circumstances and settings that are amenable to whoever is being queried, interrogated, or interviewed? And if this is true, she'll find a way to turn this. I've left my home, and I can't accept this invitation. I'm getting death threats. I'm feeling very scared. I'm feeling very frightened. I'm feeling very, very unsafe. And so, Senator Grassley, thank you, but I can't even tell you where I am in order to do the interview. And the media will say, then it must be true. You know what the shrinks say, Rush? The shrinks say that the less you can remember about an event, the more likely it is to happen because you're traumatized. Well, if that's the case, Kavanaugh doesn't remember any of it. He must be really traumatized because he doesn't remember a shred of this. She remembers enough to bollocks up the United States Senate Judiciary Committee confirmation process. So Grassley's offered to go interview her. I don't know if it's just Grassley and his staff or if he's going to take the whole committee. I don't know, Maxine Waters is going to be invited to go along. I have no idea. It's just CNN with the story. But this woman does not want to answer questions. I think they're making it clear. They're bending over backwards to let her know they want to hear her story. We'll even come to you. We will bring the nation's capital to you, Dr. Ford. And I know what she's going to say. I can't. My location would be compromised. I've had to leave. I've had to leave my home. I've had to leave my family. I've had to leave my heart because I am under death threats. And Senator Grassley, I don't trust you or anybody in the committee not to leak where I am to these deranged Trump voters that support you. We'll just have to wait and see. Let's get started on the phones when we come back here, folks. Don't go anywhere. Hi, welcome back. Rush Limbaugh, a household name in all four corners of the world. And we start with Don in Santa Clara, Utah. Welcome, sir. You're up first today.
Well, thank you, Rush. It's really an honor to talk to you. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You bet.
You're welcome. Okay. The reason I'm calling is I'm a retired Defense Department federal employee, and during part of my career, I was the family advocacy officer at a large Air Force base here in the United States.
What does a family advocacy officer do?
Well, we investigated cases of suspected child abuse, child neglect, and spouse abuse. And we accepted referrals from anybody in the Air Force or the local community.
Oh, okay.
And we had a standard, what was called reasonable suspicion. And it was a fairly low a standard where if it even looked like there might be a hint that something really happened, we would open a case, do an investigation, receive reports from other agencies, medical reports, interview all the people involved. But if we didn't feel that it even met a minimum standard, we closed the case and called it no reasonable suspicion. My experience tells me this case has no reasonable suspicion.
Well,
there's no information, there's no dates. It's just, I hate to use the word bogus, but basically there's not even a minimal threshold that we would use to open it, we would stamp it no reasonable suspicion and file it in the archive.
You come from a world of decency and honor and common sense. It's a bygone era. We're now in the Me Too movement where there are exceptions, but for the most part, the woman says it, and you have to believe it, at least in terms of how you approach it. You have to believe it. It is political suicide not to accept it as true or likely. You just can't. Your standard of reasonable suspicion, try that term out. This woman, you could say she wouldn't pass the old Department of Defense reasonable suspicion test, and look what happens to whoever tries to say that. We're living a different era now, where the nature of the evidence is everything. I mean, the seriousness of the charge is everything, and the nature of evidence doesn't count for much at all.
I agree with you totally, Rush, and it's really sad because a good man's reputation and his life are being ruined. That's why we had the standard that we did, and we were audited by all kinds of people. We cooperated with all kinds of local agencies on and off the Air Force Base. We had to have good documentation for everything that we did. And this thing is totally bogus with no facts. I mean, where do you start an investigation with this other than interviewing this lady, which she's refusing to do? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, she's relying so much here. This is not about what really even happened. This is about simply delaying Kavanaugh's confirmation vote.
Oh, absolutely.
An added bonus is they get to destroy his character and reputation along the way. And if they get away with this, if they get away with this, you can say goodbye to decent people wanting to find their way to Washington to spend any serious time. The only people going to be left are going to be deranged progressives running everything, because decent people aren't going to want any part of this. Decent people haven't the slightest idea how to deal with this and don't want to.
You're absolutely right, Rush, and it's really sad that our society has come to this level. But thank you for doing what you do. We're with you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's an interesting, I've never heard of reasonable suspicion. Reasonable doubt, everybody's heard of. Reasonable suspicion. It sounds like that was a mechanism that would allow for an agency to investigate something before a crime happened, which a lot of people, when you're talking about spousal abuse or bullying or this kind of thing, how often your child has been bullied or you have been abused as a spouse, and you go to authorities, so I can't do anything if something actually happens to you. This sounds like it was a way to actually look into something before a serious event happened. Reasonable suspicion. Well, as he points out, this wouldn't pass that test. That's a great. There's no reasonable suspicion here other than her coming forward 36 years later, and there's nothing reasonable. Period. And that's what has people so frosted here. Don, thank you again. Let's see where we headed next. Well, Chesapeake, Virginia next. Susan, great to have you. Welcome to the EIB Network. Hello.
As Elmer Fudd would say, dittos, Rush. I waited a long time to say that. But yes, I needed to call because I also am one of those angry women who's mad at the angry women, because I was attacked when I was younger, 11 years old, by two boys. And I just wanted to say I can remember every place, the exact place I was, every bit about the incident, and then a year later, one of the same boys attacked me again in a bathroom at a rec center, and thankfully the janitor helped stop that situation. But I can remember exactly that I was in a school, exactly where I was, and I have to say that my memory was 55 years ago, because it happened when I was 11, and I'm now 66. So this woman saying that her repressed memories, it's just now coming out. My question was, in 2012, when she got the help and she knew he was a judge, why didn't she do something when he was a big judge then? It just baffles me.
Obviously. Well, because the rule in Washington, you can be a reprobate and be on the D.C. Circuit. But when it's time to go to the Supreme Court to affect the balance, then that's when the left is going to step in and if you're not a reprobate, make up the fact that you are. One quick question with 30 seconds here. You say you remember everything about it. This woman claims she didn't report it until 2012, and now they've got a bevy. They have an army of therapists saying, well, the fact that she can't remember is probably the best proof we're ever going to have that it did happen. Because the more traumatic something is, the more it is tended to be forgotten and suppressed. So I think they're saying in unison, we ought to believe this woman precisely because she has no details.
Well, if you look up some of what the clinical researchers say, yesterday my husband was looking it up, 70% do not believe that repressed memories are valid.
And
he looked it up again today, and what he found out was that the 70% of research psychologists say that... I
appreciate the call. I gotta go. I just saw the clock again. I'm up against it, but I do appreciate your taking the time. Back here, folks, in a moment. A former staffer at PBS says that the Muppet characters Bert and Ernie were gay. Did you know that? Now, PBS said, no. They were not gay. They were and remain puppets. They are not people. And it's an amazing admission, really. Well, it seems like it's kind of official now. There will not be an FBI investigation of the allegations made by Christine Ballsy Ford. President Trump has said no FBI, and the GOP, of course, said no FBI. And the FBI, if Trump says no FBI, well, unless the FBI wants to embarrass Trump, who knows? The FBI probably isn't going to look at it, which is then throwing the ball back in the accuser's court along with her lawyers, because they're saying we're not going to go forward without an FBI investigation. Greetings and welcome back. Rush Limbaugh, making more sense in 5 seconds than most people do in a year. Great to have you. The telephone number, 800-282-2882. I don't think, as I said, I don't think the accuser wants to testify. I can believe that the accuser is nonplussed by all this. Actually, I'm not even sure I believe that. I think we're dealing with a hardened left-wing activist here. And I think they're all loaded for bear, and I think they're prepared to do whatever. But this is obviously a stall technique. And so now, what will they do if the request for an FBI investigation is being denied? Then the accuser says, "Well, then I'm not going to come forward." The latest is that Grassley, supposedly now, Grassley has offered to go out to California to interview her, which she can easily reject by saying, no, Senator Grassley, he's just trying to find out where I am. I've had to leave my home. I don't feel safe. I'm under death threats and other threats, and I've had to go into hiding, and my family, it's a horrible thing. And I'm not going to tell people where I am just to go through this. At some point here, Senator Grassley, the president, the Republicans are going to have to decide to reschedule that vote. And I wish it were still happening tomorrow. We know the Democrats are going to oppose, and we know they're going to oppose in unison. But we're talking about the Judiciary Committee vote here, not the full vote of the Senate. That's what was scheduled to happen tomorrow. And if this woman refuses to testify, you can't let this woman or any other accuser who refuses to come forward and answer questions about her allegation, you can't allow anybody like that to shut down the quote-unquote government, right? Well, we can't have government shutdowns. And this is shutting down the United States Senate Judiciary Committee, which is exactly the objective and the idea. So we will continue to discuss this as the as the program unfolds, there's no question here that this is a hit job. It's a political hit job. If it looks, walks, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And this is a political hit job. And if I was lying, and if I was engaged in character assassination, I wouldn't be in a hurry to testify about it before the entire world. Because I would realize I don't have to do that in order to destroy somebody. All I've got to do is make the allegation, and a whole political party will back me up. All I have to do is make an allegation about the guy, and a whole political party, entire political party, and most of the United States media will back me up. And I don't ever need to testify. I just have to keep making demands that entire political party will support and the media will support, demands I know will never be met, like the FBI investigating this. And I will succeed in destroying the character and reputation. Well, she's not going to destroy the character, but she's going to destroy the reputation and the career. She's trying to do that, as is the entire Democrat Party. So now the ball is eventually going to be back in the Senate's hands. And they're going to have to decide if they are going to retain any shred of dignity and proceed with their own process rather than have it hijacked here by somebody who won't even answer questions about it. I don't care who you are, the accuser never sets the terms of an interview or an investigation. The accuser doesn't get to tell investigators who investigate. The accuser doesn't get to say when the investigation or any aspect of it happens. The accuser doesn't get to do or have control over any of these things like this accuser is demanding. And it's because everybody's afraid of the Me Too movement. Everybody's afraid of the women's vote. Another named witness at the alleged Kavanaugh party denies being there. Patrick J. Smythe, S-M-Y-T-H, one of the men who was allegedly at the party where Kavanaugh sexually assaulted Dr. Christine Ballsy Ford in the 1980s, doesn't even remember the party, and therefore denies the allegations of misconduct against Kavanaugh. Smythe and another man, Mark Judge, who was actually named by Dr. Ford, have both denied being at the party and have declined to come forward to the Judiciary Committee. She has no witnesses. She just has a bunch of left-wing activists demanding and threatening that everybody must believe her. Former classmates of Kavanaugh's denies being at the party in sexual assault allegation. This is just another story on Patrick Smythe, who denies being there. Lindsey Graham, I thought this is Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Grahamnesty, in a statement to the Washington Post. Senator Graham likened the way Democrats have handled this allegation to a drive-by shooting. Senator Grahamnesty says this is a drive-by shooting. All I can say is that we're bringing this to a close. They've had tons of time to do this. This has been a drive-by shooting when it comes to Kavanaugh. I'll listen to the lady, but we're going to bring this to a close. Drive-by has a ring to it, doesn't it? Drive-by media, drive-by Democrat Party. Go to the audio sound bites. Let's review something that I said, because there are many reasons why this is happening, and some of them are co-equal. The primary reason is to delay the confirmation because they don't want Kavanaugh in the court because of his judicial qualifications and beliefs. They also don't want any conservative on the court because they really want to be able to maintain control over a woman's womb. And they want to be able to determine what happens to occupants of a woman's womb. And they're afraid that Kavanaugh is going to come along and overturn Roe versus Wade, which is not going to happen. But they can't take the chance that it won't. So there are many reasons why this is happening. Yesterday on the program, I outlined one of them. What do you think the bullseye really is here? What do you think has the Democrats so paranoid, so frightened, so agitated, so animated, motivated to stop this guy? What is it? Well, yeah, but why? I know they don't want him in a court. It's one word, begins with an A. This is all about abortion. It is about nothing else. As far as the left is concerned, they want to be able to continue uninterrupted with their behavior when it comes to abortion. Sex without consequence, life without consequence. They are scared to death that a Republican or conservative majority is going to overturn Roe versus Wade. But in addition to that, and this can't be said enough, they really believe they're going to win the Senate, folks. They're believing their polls. They don't have the slightest idea what a potential backlash they are creating with their behavior here and what they're doing to Kevin. They haven't the slightest idea. They have no idea of the rage. They think the Democrats have all the motivation and inspiration, eagerness to vote. They have no idea what this is doing to Republican turnout. They have no idea at all. But we saw a harbinger of it in a Texas special election last night where a Republican won a Democrat seat that the Democrats have held for 139 years, and the polls did not say this was going to happen. Democrats think they're in the process of turning Texas blue. And yet this one seat that they've held in the district went heavily for Hillary, elected a Republican. They're sitting there blind as a bat. They have no concept. They have no sense because they're not connected to the American people. They have no idea how their behavior here is revving up Republicans to vote in November like nothing else could. You wait, we'll see. Here's David Rodham Gergen last night. Anderson Cooper 210. Cooper said, this call from Democrats for an FBI investigation, it's a delay tactic, some people say.
This vital last step about who's going to investigate is crucial to the outcome. What's most important for the country here, Anderson, is when this is all said and done, if Judge Kavanaugh is going on the Supreme Court and it's going to tip the balance of the court for years to come, it's really essential that he go forward without a big cloud over him. To have Judge Kavanaugh go up there and join Clarence Thomas, you have two people who've been accused of sexual harassment on the court deciding whether Roe v. Wade should be sustained or not and precedent not to rule. That is not a helpful situation.
Bingo! What did I tell you? To have two people on the court with the cloud of sexual harassment allegations hanging over them? Why do those clouds exist? Because uncredible accusers came forth at the last minute to try to taint them. Neither Clarence Thomas nor Brett Kavanaugh were known as sexual anythings until the last days of their confirmation hearings. Folks, I'm telling you, I have lost all respect for any of these people on the left. And it takes a lot of effort really to rein in the loathing I have for these people and what they are willing to do. Decent people, I said this Monday, decent people do not know how to deal with this. Decent people do not focus on how to literally destroy the lives of people they disagree with. And that's what we're facing. The left is literally trying with great effort to destroy the lives and the careers and the reputations of anybody they don't agree with. How can anybody respect these people? And they do it without any concern whatsoever. And all the while, we have to sit here and listen to this drivel that they're the ones with all the big hearts, and they're the ones with all the compassion, they're the ones with caring, they're the ones as social justice warriors concerned about discrimination and unfairness, and they wantonly, eagerly, happily seek to personally destroy anybody who gets in their way. I mean, ruin them. Wipe them out financially. destroy their families, ruin their reputations, destroy their careers. Decent people don't know how to deal with that. Decent people are just going to avoid it. That's why Trump was elected. And that's why people that support Trump don't care one whit what he says in a tweet. They don't care one whit what he says. He is the lone person fighting back against any of this. He's the only person that people that voted for him think has a chance of standing up to these people and stopping them. That's why they supported him. It's why they elected him, and that's why they don't abandon him now. Let's take a brief time out again. Be back here in moments.
Have you downloaded Rush's radio show app yet?
We streamlined it, made it much... Well, here's another bit of cold water thrown on the accuser. And the FBI will not be investigating her claim. And now Montgomery County Police say that unless a complaint is filed, they will not pursue an investigation into Christine Ballsy Ford's allegation that Brett Kavanaugh physically and sexually assaulted her at a party in Montgomery County in the early 1980s. Both were in high school. Montgomery County, the local constabulary, they won't investigate unless a complaint is filed. Well, that stands to reason, and there hasn't been a complaint filed. And what do you think the odds are that she will file a complaint? You think her warriors will run down to the courthouse and file a complaint, or call the cops and file a complaint? I don't know if you can do it after 30 years. Statute of limitations, those of you in Rio Linda. I don't know. But she didn't file a complaint. She didn't even remember to tell anybody about this until 6 years ago. Back to the phones. Carmel, Indiana. Tracy, welcome. Glad you waited. You're up next to the EIB network. Hi.
Wow, Rush, what an honor.
Thank you.
Dittos from the great unwashed Midwest.
Right where I'm from, by the way.
Absolutely. So I was giving my daughter the Cliff Notes version on Brett Kavanaugh, and then I tuned in, and you were talking about the media and how they're all in and they're selling it and giving it all they got. And I just want some reassurance from you about what percentage of people do you think are buying that schlock? You know, a lot of people are disgusted about politics. They don't want to hear about it anymore. But if we don't pay attention, this stuff keeps going on. So I just wonder.
Well, I don't know.
Paying attention than not.
Well, let me answer this. The first thing I have to tell you is that nothing, nowhere, no how, any ways, is going to change the way the media is doing what it's doing about this or any other story. They, in any number of public opinion polls, journalism in the media is like sitting there with 2 to 5% respect. It's lower than Congress in many polls, just as an industry and as a business, as a political entity. The media doesn't care. It's the one business where they don't give a rat's rear end what the customers think, because they have a disdain and a contempt for the customer. Look at CNN. CNN has been hemorrhaging audience for 2 years. They don't care. It doesn't matter to them.
I know, but I still see it on in my bank. When I go into the bank in the red county, in the red state where I live, I see CNN. I don't get why there isn't more of public outrage about it.
Well, we don't know that there isn't. The polling data is suggestive that people are not buying what they see. Look, this is a real tough, it's a tough thing to answer. That's why, I've got this piece here that ran in American Greatness by Julie Kelly, who thinks that the media, and she's got some assists here from a column, great guy called Lee Smith, they think that the media is committing suicide, specifically with the way they've been conducting business since the presidential campaign and after Trump was elected. But you don't believe that, I can tell, because you go to your bank and there's CNN, and you don't see anybody committing suicide. You see them still on the air. So you hear this.
I'm really surprised there hasn't been another major upstart of a conservative news outlet. I get Breitbart and all those things. I just mean, besides Fox, I'm surprised nobody's built a website like Twitter for conservatism.
Well, I can't. I can only guess. I could only guess at that.
I'm going to get on and I'm going to get on and drive my school bus. I have to go. I'm so thrilled to talk to you, but I want to tell you thanks for the Rush Revere books. My homeschooled daughters have really enjoyed them, so thanks, and I hope they keep coming.
Well, thank you very much. You even said homeschooled. I like you drive a school bus.
I did.
Awesome. Well, look, I'm glad you called, Tracy. Thank you very much. I wish I had confident, comforting predictions about the media. What I know is that no matter how bad it gets for them, no matter how much audience they lose, no matter how much money their parent companies lose, they're not going to change. The last thing they're going to do, they're going to remain who they are and what they are and how they do it, regardless, because they are a political entity in their own minds. They're not a business entity. The people who work in media don't care about profitability. In fact, most of them think that the news divisions of the companies for which they work ought not even be subject to bottom line considerations because they have a constitutional duty and there shouldn't be any limits on money and there shouldn't be any profit pressures. But in terms of it affecting their content, it ain't going to happen. They'll just keep laying people off if they continue to lose money, but it's not going to have any kind of impact that you would expect any other business. Losing customers would adapt and change, not the media. So however bad it gets for them, you're really not going to see the evidence of it because they're going to keep doing as they always have.
For most people, the funeral of a loved one.
Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. Rush Limbaugh loving it and living it here from the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies, Advanced Anti-Media and Anti-Leftist Studies. Let me read to you just a couple of excerpts here from Julie Kelly's piece, Media Continues Its Slow Suicide. Now, you've heard much of this from your host. Her uniqueness here is that she is predicting that all of this is going to lead to the media imploding and destroying itself. And I would love to tell you I agree with her about this. You know, there are a lot of people during the Clinton years and all through the Obama years. I can remember the number of moralists, for example, on our side, good people, who wrote that Clinton doing this or Obama doing that, or now the FBI, DOJ doing this is going to destroy their collective reputations and so forth. And it didn't happen. And it was like these people were stuck in a period of time in the past where there was such a thing as public shame. And that a reputation was subject to one's own integrity or lack thereof. But I mean, people with no integrity and dishonesty and able to pull that off in a likable way will keep getting away with it. Here you got a guy, Kavanaugh, who has got impeccable reputation in virtually every aspect of his life. Every aspect. His reputation, character, unassailable. And now, where is it? What would you say they have done to his reputation? Well, Ted Kennedy kills a woman, has a habit of abusing and disrespecting women, abusing them sexually. Down here in Palm Beach with his nephew William Kennedy Smith, Mary Jo Kopechne, what do? They turn him into the Lion of the Senate. He becomes one of the most respected, veneered Democrats ever. Bill Clinton, ditto. Meanwhile, Clarence Thomas, there was never a shred of evidence he did anything that he did, and zilch, zero, nada for Kavanaugh, and yet look what happened to them. Now, you want to tell me that there's any justice in this? There isn't any justice in this whatsoever. The left doesn't care. They're happy. They're more than happy to destroy people. They attempt it every day, depending on who they think is in their way. And so, yeah, a lot of people over the years have expected this kind of behavior to come back and haunt these people and bite them in the rear. But the last I looked, Ted Kennedy passed away with glowing hero worship by everybody in the Democrat Party. You couldn't get them to talk about his actual treatment of women, showed any kind of disrespect for him whatsoever. Ditto with Bill Clinton. And the list on the Democrat side is longer than just those two. So the belief that somehow there is a moral code that ends up handing out justice, I don't think people believe that anymore. I don't think people believe that there is a set of standards that define goodness and decency and that they triumph. I think what people are seeing is that indecency, perversion, lying, character assassination, and assault, they are what is winning. They are the champions of political life in America today. So you can forgive people if they don't believe that all of this is eventually going to come back and bite people and hold them accountable. But here we have, Conrad Black is one of those people. He is insistent that these people are going to pay a price they can't even imagine paying. That the American people are going to be the ones to let them know what a bunch of reprobates everybody thinks they are. Conrad Black has untold faith that this is going to happen. So does Julie Kelly, writing in American Greatness, and so does Lee Smith. Here's an excerpt of what she's reading. You've heard much of this on this program. She says there's a more sinister agenda behind this collective media malpractice and cacophony. And that is to hide their complicity in the biggest political scandal of all time, which included the weaponization of the nation's most powerful government agencies to spy on a rival presidential campaign, included the illegal leaking of classified information to friendly journalists to defame American citizens associated with the Trump campaign, and included the sabotage of an incoming presidency. The media is happy to distract us with manufactured non-scandals that advance the political interests of their friends. Look, there's no question that I believe the Mueller investigation is in large part a massive cover-up of the real crimes committed by the people that run that town. The Democrats, the media, people in the Washington establishment, that's all to be covered up. They're the ones that committed real crimes, and they continue to commit them against the Trump presidency. She continues here, each week new details emerge about how the media seeded the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, SEEDED. This has been uncovered, by the way. I'll tell you how they did it. They ran a test program on this with the Iran nuclear program. They fed a bunch of journalists a bunch of garbage to see if they would repeat it and report it, and they did. They didn't even question what they were being told. The Obama administration actually told a journalist that climate change was responsible for the destruction of a dam in Vermont, and the guy ran the story. The dam has not been destroyed. It's still functioning. So the Obama administration seeds journalists with a bunch of garbage just to see if they run it. So they ran it during the Iran nuclear deal news cycle. So they figured they could get away with leaking a bunch of stuff not true about Trump and collusion with Russia. And they were right, because the media is a bunch of liberal Democrat sycophants. So she writes, each week the new details emerge about how the media seeded the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. High-level federal officials acting in bad faith schemed with reporters eager for a scoop to spin nefarious tales about Trump and his aides. Some of the resultant articles were cited as evidence to persuade a secret court to allow the U.S. government to spy on private citizens. Former FBI Director Comey admitted he had a friend leak a copy of his internal memo to the press to help prompt the special counsel. This writer, Julie Kelly, thinks all this stuff is going to come back and bite these people and sink them. And my question is, with who? Who's going to sink them? American people? The American people, if they lose respect for the media, does that sink the media? I don't think so, because that's already happened. What's going to sink the media? RICO lawsuits? I don't know. What's going to sink the media? What's going to shame these people? There ought to be piles and piles of shame over what is being done to Brett Kavanaugh. Dianne Feinstein should be ashamed. Chuck Schumer should be ashamed. These people ought to be literally embarrassed about what they're doing. But they're not. They're patting each other on the back. They're already throwing advance parties because they think they're going to delay this and win the Senate and deny this nomination. They're applauding each other on the back for destroying a wonderful man and his family. They ought to be ashamed. They ought to have guilt complexes just bollocksing them up so they're unable to function. Most normal people wouldn't be able to live with themselves pulling off stunts like this over and over and over again. Well, it's what the Republicans did. It's what the Republicans did to Merrick Garland. Republicans didn't do anything of the sort to Merrick Garland. They just delayed a vote. That's all. Because it was an election year for which there was Democrat Party precedence. Thank you, Joe Biden. What is his friend and classmate of Kavanaugh's accuser? Speaks up. Okay, so now they're trotting out friends of Christine Ballsy Ford here. Yeah, okay, I have to refrain from comment based on what I'm saying. So I will not say anything, but this is part of the process here. Before we go to the break, I want to play you a couple of sound bites from Mazie Hirono from Hawaii. She's a Democrat senator. The Democrats had a press conference yesterday. We're at sound bites 5 and 6 here. An unidentified reporter said to Senator Mazie Hirono, Democrat, Hawaii, "You're one of just 4 women on the Senate Judiciary Committee. How does that impact the proceedings on Judge Kavanaugh and Christine Ballsy Ford, if at all?"
Of course it helps that there are women on that committee, but you know what? I expect the men in this country and the men in this committee, and many of them, believe me, because we all signed on to this letter to demand an FBI investigation, but really, guess who's perpetuating all of these kinds of actions? It's the men in this country, and I just want to say to the men in this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing for a change.
To the men, now it's gone beyond Kavanaugh. Now it's not just Kavanaugh's a reprobate, it's all of us men. And I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up. What, this is reasonable? Just shut up and step up. Can you imagine if I went on TV talking about, just shut up, ladies. Just shut up and go away and stop bugging us. Everything was fine until 1970. Shut up and go. What would happen to me? People are nodding in there because they know. But what would happen to me? She's applauded for this. She's applauded. I want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing for a change. Something must have happened to Mazie Hirono when she was young to make her hate men like this. Something had to have happened. I refuse to believe people are born this way. Something had to have happened. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a family member that abused her. We'll be back
Rush
after this.
Limbaugh, bringing America the truth on the EIB network.
Rhetoric and Resonance, coast to coast. And we go to Charleston, South Carolina. This is Eric. Welcome, sir. Great that you called. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Hey, love the show, long-time listener. I do have to disagree with you on one thing about this whole Kavanaugh thing. I know you're saying that it's to delay. I disagree. I think the whole Me Too movement, the whole segment you just played about the senator saying, shut up, men, I think all this is about removing men from the public sphere, you know. I think that's the whole concept of what's going on right now is to make every man out there scared to death. And, you know, that way they can kind of kowtow us all and make us just say, well, look, it's not worth it. And then even when you have somebody like Collins, you know, who is a moderate Republican, it's still female voices. I think Kavanaugh gets through, but I think the next judge has to be a woman.
You think that has to be because of what women are doing? You think the only way that we can get somebody on the court is for her to be a woman?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there was a woman that was on the list equally as high on Trump's list as was Kavanaugh. And they didn't go for her first. I forget what the thinking was, and I'm having a mental block on her name, but she was and is highly reputed. And my memory is that they decided to go with Kavanaugh first on the basis of his qualifications being such that there couldn't be any reasonable opposition to him. Ha, 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 ha. But more importantly, they wanted to wait for a female nominee for the next opening. Yeah, Amy Coney Barrett is the name that was being bandied about, co-equal with Kavanaugh. They decided on Kavanaugh because, A, impeccable. Can't get anybody better. There's nobody better, judicially, intellectually, emotionally, nobody better. No legitimate reason to oppose the guy, was the thinking. They didn't want to throw Amy Coney Barrett up there until there was maybe a vacancy, say from Ruth Ginsburg or Elena Kagan or Sonia Sotomayor. And they thought it would be more advantageous to her to have her nominated to fill a seat vacated by a woman. Now, I think all this kind of thinking is cockamamie, and it does demonstrate what we've all known for years, and that is the Supreme Court is just a political institution. It's long since been abandoned as what it was originally intended to be. But your thought that what this really is an all-out assault on men everywhere and a desire to keep men out of positions of power. Folks, do not discount that as being something that several literally lunatic people on the left think. They've been taught this, years and years of women's studies courses. All sex is rape, including the sex in marriage. I mean, women in 2 straight generations, if not more, have literally been poisoned with male hatred for men on college campuses across the country. So there is an element of truth to that, but I do believe that this particular instance is about delay and specifically rooted in polling data that makes the Democrats think they can win the Senate. Mazie Hirono from Hawaii, who said men should just shut up and go away or step up and do the right thing, she said that the Democrats could keep the seat open on the Supreme Court vacant. They could keep it until after the 2020 election if Kavanaugh's nomination collapses. If the Democrats regain control of the Senate in November, she said we can keep his seat open until Trump's gone. We don't have to fill the seat. We don't have to, whoever he sends up, we don't have to vote on him ever. So this is a plan. Believe me, folks, Kavanaugh is seen as not an Anthony Kennedy. Anthony Kennedy was a centrist, moderate, go with the left. Now, Kavanaugh's not that. They are petrified of Kavanaugh and losing any semblance of control over the court. And then the next nomination after that, they are petrified. And got to go. Back in a second.
Rush Limbaugh, simply amazing.
Yeah, there was one, Amy Coney Barrett, and there was one other thing. She was the nominee that Dianne Feinstein said the dogma sings loudly in you, meaning your Catholicism, your dogma. You really believe the dogma. And, of course, that was code lingo for this woman is way too anti-abortion. That's why they withheld her. Back in a moment. Hi. How are you? Welcome back. It's great to have you, my friends. Rush Limbaugh and the fastest 3 hours in media. I mean, they're going by lickety-split here. I can't believe we're already starting the third hour. Still much to do. Telephone number is 800-282-2882. By the way, we had a lag today at rushlimbaugh.com, the website. It was fixed almost immediately. But I got a couple of emails. Rush, what's wrong with the web? Nothing's wrong with the website. The app is just running like it's just the greatest thing. The rushlimbaugh.com app for your iPhone, your iPad, or your Android device just makes accessing this program and all of its content as easy as it's ever been. You can find it at the iOS App Store or Google Play if you have Android. There's so much we offer to free users. I mean, you don't have to subscribe to have access to transcripts of pretty much everything said on the program each and every day. You can share the transcripts. You don't get the Ditto Cam if you're not a member, but you can, and you don't get stream audio, but you have access to pretty much everything that happens here. You got access to the archives. You have access to video highlights. We offer more free on our website than I think practically anybody else with this kind of content. And then if you become a member, it becomes encyclopedic. The amount of content and the archives that you have access to. Ditto Cam archives, audio stream archives, podcasts of each day's programs. RushLimbaugh.com on the web. Search just Rush Limbaugh for the app on the iOS store or the Google Play Store. Let's see. And the Rush Limbaugh store while you're at it. We have restocked based on public demand. We have the finest quality apparel and items at the price point that we wanted to sell this stuff at and we could find. We're getting rave reviews on the T-shirts, for example. They're not just standard old cotton Hanes T-shirts that shrink up on you after 2 or 3 washes. These T-shirts, people are remarking on the quality of them. We have new era caps, baseball and golf caps. They are the caps made by the same outfit that makes caps for Major League Baseball teams for decades and for NFL coaches and so forth on the sidelines. Golf shirts, apparel, it's all there. And it's at the Rush Limbaugh store. We just cracked it open a couple of months ago. And it's going gangbusters as well. Grab soundbite number 22. This is what I saw. I wasn't able to hear any of it because it was happening while I was on the program. But they're bringing out friends now of the accuser, Christine Ballsy Ford. And CNN just had one of them up there. This woman's name is Samantha Gary, spelled Guerry, ex-classmate of Dr. Ford. And Jim Acosta is accosting her in this particular appearance. He said, what Dr. Ford is alleging, is this the first time you heard anything like that about Judge Kavanaugh?
It's not the first time I've heard anything like that in terms of the community of women that I know, and not regarding him, but
those sorts of things went on.
A lot. One of the things that's been surprising to me as I've gotten involved in this in the last couple of days is how many women of my class have come forward to me in this last few days and said, I had similar experiences in high school, and this hits me very deeply. And it's very
not with Brett Kavanaugh, but with other boys. Not with Brett
Kavanaugh, but with other boys in our community, and we all feel that if we were in her shoes, we'd want to be taken seriously as well.
Not Brett Kavanaugh. But now a bunch of other nameless guys are on the verge of being dragged through the mud here. But not Brett Kavanaugh. This again is Samantha Gary being interviewed on CNN. Well, it's not the first time I've heard anything like that in terms of the community of women that I know. Not regarding him, but a lot, those things went on. And one of the things that's been surprising to me as I've got involved in this is how many women of my class have come forward to me in this last few days and said, I had similar experiences in high school. All right, this one-way street business has got to stop. Can I ask you guys a question? I'm not going to get any answers. I'm not asking for phone calls. Well, if you want to call, you can try. I want to know something. You guys, all of you, at some point, except you reprobates and dropouts, everybody was in high school. I just want to ask, how many of you guys at a party or at any other time minding your own business found a girl's hand in your crotch? How often did that happen? Once, twice, did it? How often did you find yourself minding your own business and some girl comes sidling up to you and starts behaving in ways that made you feel uncomfortable? I'm seeing a lot of hands shoot up out there. And I would love to tell you the difference, but not in this day and era. Dawn's in there. What are you shaking your head for? You don't think that's very prevalent. You don't think that's very prevalent. You don't think targeting junk and going for it is very prevalent in high school. Okay, all right. That just means you didn't. But I'm just asking. This one-way street business out here. Now we've got Samantha Gary, who is saying, well, one of the things that's been surprising to me as I've gotten involved in this in the community is how many women in my class have come forward to me and said I had similar experiences, and this hits me very deeply. Not Brett Kavanaugh, other boys, but not Brett Kavanaugh. You notice here the friend, she doesn't want to get anywhere near naming Kavanaugh. Now that's what I take. Obviously, you have Samantha Gary wants to support her bud, her BFF, Christine Ballsy Ford, but she's not getting anywhere near naming Kavanaugh. Do you know? That's the takeaway here. In fact, she makes it very clear not Kavanaugh. When she's describing all these other women who have experienced identical things, not Brett Kavanaugh. She doesn't know anything about that. Did Christine Ballsy Ford not tell her about Kavanaugh? Just describe this stuff in general. Christine Ballsy Ford not tell her anything. And she's now just learning as other women in the community come forward and say, oh, yeah. Okay. But not with Brett Kavanaugh. Not with Brett Kavanaugh. Would have been an ideal time. Oh, yeah, Brett Kavanaugh was widely known. But she didn't, did she? She makes a point here. She wants to be perfectly clear she doesn't know a thing about Brett Kavanaugh. Even when she's describing what this stuff that happened was. Not Brett Kavanaugh, not him. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of stuff happening out there that is being overshadowed by this story, and to a certain extent, the Hurricane Florence and the aftermath in the Carolinas. But I want to pass this on to you because this is important work that's being done out there by Project Veritas. James O'Keefe has released another batch of secret videotapes that he made with people in what he's calling the deep state at Homeland Security and the Department of Justice. And he's releasing secretly made tapes where these people are all admitting that they are part of the Trump resistance and that there's nothing that can happen to them and that there's nothing that can make them stop doing this. And Project Veritas has done a yeoman's work. They've been working on this for months and months. We, powerful, influential members of the media, get a heads up on what O'Keefe is working on. But we are sworn to secrecy, obviously. But he released the opening tapes on this week. And the installment today at the ProjectVeritas.com website, Deep State Unmasked, leaks at Homeland Security, DOJ official resists from inside and cannot get fired. They opened up and they told him exactly what they're doing, why, and how they are untouchable in their minds. Many of them are admitting that they are members of the Democratic Socialists of America and that they're career lifers in the State Department or Homeland Security, DOJ. One person admitted, we have a member who works for the people who distribute food stamps. They're slowing down what they do. There is apparent abuse of resources at the Department of Justice. She uses it probably on her work computer. That's the kind of thing that you would get fired for if people knew about it. They are openly admitting targeting political enemies. The latest videos released, second installment, undercover video series, Unmasking the Deep State. Stuart Carafa is one of the people unmasked and identified here. He admitted to engaging in political activism on behalf of the Democratic Socialists of America while working at the State Department. Now, the State Department's issued a response to the video at Project Veritas stating they're looking into this. They're going to investigate, as though they didn't know that they had a bunch of resistance socialists inside trying to thwart the Trump administration, the basic agenda of America. The video today that Veritas has released features a DOJ paralegal, Allison Raber, reportedly using government-owned software and computers to push the socialist agenda from inside. Also featured Jessica Schubel, the former chief of staff for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services during the last Obama term. Both Schubel and Raber make admissions revealing that federal employees appear to be using their positions inside government to resist or slow Trump administration policies. Now, you may, well, Rush, we've known this. Yeah, you've known it. You've suspected it. O'Keefe and Project Veritas have them admitting to it on video, proudly, happily admitting to it, and basically claiming nothing can happen to us. We can't get fired. O'Keefe believes that laws are being broken in the process of this. As a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, Raber was seen chasing Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen from a D.C. area restaurant. You remember when she was harassed? She was having dinner with her family, was harassed. It was a DOJ member. Somebody working in the government that was part of the protest group that was harassing her to leave. So O'Keefe and the Project Veritas people continue to do their work in exposing the left and doing it with secret video where these leftists own up to it and admit it. I mean, this is how we found out, folks, of Robert Kramer. Robert Kramer, who was with Obama 64, 65 times. Robert Kramer, who was hiring people and paying them to go protest Trump rallies during the campaign with the encouragement of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton campaign. Robert Kramer, who's the husband of a Democrat member of Congress. We know this because of O'Keefe. We know this because of Project Veritas. Getting these people to admit it in secret video. Let's take a quick break and back before you know it.
Be prepared to overpower.
Long-time fan since 1988. Great to talk to you.
Thank you very much. You're a lifer, too. You've been out there since the very beginning. That's amazing to me.
In 89, you were actually in Altoona, and my husband and I got to come see you. So.
I remember one of the early Rush to Excellence stops was Altoona. I remember flying in there, too. That was great.
Yeah, it was a great event. Anyways, I'm just livid over Christine Ford's false claims. I wonder if she realizes, if the liberals realize that as much as hurting the Kavanaughs, she is hurting women everywhere. I believe there are true victims, and when you have all these women coming out making false claims, that just gives discredit to the women that have actual claims. And I think people turn their ears off more quickly after all of this, these ridiculous claims, and they won't be taken as seriously. And really, so the bleeding heart liberals, the compassionate people, they're the ones that are discrediting women more than anybody over playing this kind of cry wolf game for political gain. I just think shame on them. You know, women have struggled for so many years to be taken as seriously in the workplace.
Yeah.
And now we have women going around making these unfalse claims, making us look unstable, and using this card to get gain from, you know, from these accusations.
Well, so it sounds to me like what you're really saying is that you're not all that certain Democrats really care about the plight of women if they're this willing to put somebody up with this lack of credibility that's going to then redound to other women and make them seem less credible, that the Democrats may not even care about that.
The Democrats only care about themselves, and they'll use any person as a tool for their credit, for their gain.
No question about that.
They do not care about us.
I've heard this argument, and on paper, it makes sense. Ellen, thanks for the call, and really, thanks. It's been 1988, 89. That's a lifer. She's been 30 years. You know, we have audience research. You would be stunned to learn how many people are in that category. Out of our, you know, the weekly audience here is now up to 26 million. You'd be stunned how many. I was when we found out. Anyway, I hear this argument that this is really going to harm other women who are going to be reluctant to come forward because they're not going to be believed. And I've heard the argument about rape. Same time, if a woman comes forward with a false allegation that is demonstrated to be false, that then harms other women to whom it did happen, who may not be believed. And as I say, logically on paper makes sense. I'm not sure I've seen any evidence of it. I would love to be corrected on this. But for example, there have been other women. Did Anita Hill stop Christine Ballsy Ford from coming forward? Quite the contrary. Anita Hill, I have a story that details the stardom that she has received following supposedly risking it all to come forward about Clarence Thomas. And this is another myth that these women, they really run the risk of becoming fools forever and destroying their lives and losing it all, Mr. Limbaugh. Well, you know, Anita Hill kind of bombed out in her effort to keep Clarence Thomas off the court, but books by Anita Hill, Speaking Truth to Power, Reimagining Equality, Stories of Gender, Race, and Finding Home. In popular culture, in 1999, Strange Justice, a movie about her and Clarence Thomas. 1994 Law and Order episode, Virtue, about a young lawyer feeling pressured to sleep with her supervisors, based on Anita Hill. A 2013 documentary film, Anita, which chronicles her experience during the Thomas scandal. A 2016 HBO movie, Confirmation, Anita Hill portrayed by actress Kerry Washington. Hill is mentioned in the 1992 Sonic Youth song Youth Against Fascism. Awards and recognition. American Bar Association Commission on Women in the Professions Women of Achievement Award, 1992. 2005, selected as a Fletcher Foundation Fellow. 2008, awarded the Lewis P. and Evelyn Smith First Amendment Award for the Ford Hall of Fame. Ford Hall, that's not even half the page of the awards and movies and books that she has written, appeared in, or been portrayed in. She's wealthy. She has jobs at major universities. There's not one negative thing that happened to Anita Hill for losing.
And now a word.
Welcome back, my friends. El Rushbo, your guiding light through times of trouble, confusion, murkiness, character assassination, and even the good times. You know, our friends at Ball and Branch, they get tons of emails and phone calls every week from you. We tell everybody about the great bedding that they sell, the fabulously luxurious sheets, the brand new pillows that they have just released. And people buy them. And in addition to using them, they actually call and write Boll and Branch to tell them how much they appreciate it. You know why that is? Have you ever found a product you really like and you hope that the company stays in business and keeps making it? Well, that's part of what's going on here. People want Boll and Branch to continue what they're doing. That's how much they love their products. And these are from people who are just now discovering the real luxury that comes from experiencing Boll and Branch sheets and bedding. These kinds of reviews are on substance that motivates Boll and Branch to keep on keeping on. They create more ways to experience their form of luxury. Boll and Branch are best known for the sheets that they make with pure organic cotton. People find their products online. They're not at retail. That's how they keep the price point down. They're not opposed to retail. It's just if they sold this stuff retail, they wouldn't be able to sell it at the price they're able to. This would cost $1,000 at an upscale department store. The kind of sheets you get at a 5-star, 4-star hotel suite. And they also like a direct relationship with every customer. They can have that by selling online. Now, early on, Boll and Branch decided they can offer their brand of luxury directly to consumers much more affordably. And they love passing along the savings to you. They've invested some of the savings in packaging, which is itself a work of art. Once you get your first set of whatever you buy there, you're going to realize that this stuff makes excellent gift-giving material as well. Sheets of this quality would cost upwards of $1,000 at an upscale retail store. Boll and Branch offers them at $200 after a promo code discount is used. And they're so confident that every purchase comes with a 30-night guarantee, which means you have 30 days, 30 nights, to use these sheets and decide whether or not they are what I say they are. And if they're not, if they don't meet your expectations, you send them back, and they will send you all of your money back. You know what the return rate is? It's like 0.6%, like 0.6% is the return rate. People do not send them back. Use my name when you make the purchase, and you'll save $50 off your first set. Boll and Branch, BOLLN Branch.com. Gene in Ponca, Oklahoma. You're next. I'm glad you waited. Hi.
Hi. I found the names of at least 10 women, there's more, that said they were abused by Bill Clinton, and I'm concerned about where they could go to get a do-over and be believed. I was wondering if you could direct them to anywhere.
That's been tried. Juanita Broderick is one of them. Juanita Broderick, it's, by the way, I think now people credibly accept that she was raped by Bill Clinton. The left doesn't even deny it. And Juanita Broderick saying, you know, why didn't the FBI come investigate what happened to me? I remember exactly what happened. I remember where I was. I remember what he did. I remember everything about it. And the only network that ever gave this a time of day was NBC. Only one reporter. Everybody else ignores it. And the Clinton women were destroyed. Remember James Carville talking about Paula Jones? Right. He said, well, this is what happened when you drag a dollar bill to a trailer park. Ha, ha, ha. You know, and Hillary Clinton was right in there destroying all these women that came forward that had detail after detail after detail about what Bill Clinton had done to them.
It's a long list. It's a long list here, and all the accusations, and I just wish they could be heard.
Well, some of them have been, but the point is, after they're heard, they're ignored. Nobody does anything about it. The media actually continues trying to make people not believe them. And here we have an allegation that doesn't have any substance to it at all, and it's being treated as gospel. It's man. I just saw on Fox, by the way, and this is stuff when I hear this, I say this can't be true. It just can't be. But some infobabe on Fox just said that internal White House polling shows too much complacency among Trump voters leading into the November elections, that they're not all that hepped up to vote. Trump voters, Trump won. Trump's continuing to do good things. What do I need to care about? Now, that does not compute with me, unless there is one way, unless these people have just tuned out the news because they're so fed up with it, they just don't watch it, in which case they may not be even aware of what's going on here with Kavanaugh. But see, that doesn't make sense to me either. And, of course, the Trump administration might just be feeding that news to reporters so that their voters hear it and don't get complacent. I don't know. But I know I'm daily immersed in this, and I'm emotionally attached and invested in it. And so that does tend to warp your judgment if you're not careful. You think everybody is. And then you realize a lot of people do not follow this stuff, as do you and I. And you realize if more people did, there might be a bigger backlash. But this is not a one-off. This has been what we've been dealing with for 3 years now, if you go back and include the campaign. We have been dealing with this kind of literal injustice and stark unfairness. Whatever else this is, it is the epitome of a stacked deck unfairness. It is fueled by lies and perversion and distortion. And anybody paying attention to it would have to be outraged by it if they have any decency in them at all. See, that's the naive me speaking. You would think that would be the normal everyday reaction, but I don't know that it is. Grab soundbites 10 and 11. Yesterday we learned that the lawyer for the accuser, Dr. Christine Ballsy Ford, the lawyer Deborah Katz, it's not up to her to prove anything. The accuser doesn't have to corroborate anything. That caught me flat-footed. I said, what? The accuser doesn't have to corroborate? Go talk to any prosecutor. The prosecutor has to damn well corroborate, confirm, prove, reasonable doubt beyond all that. In a court. Now, in the court of real life, yeah, the defendants often have to prove they didn't do it, even though proving a negative is practically impossible. But in this case, this woman comes forth after 36 years of nothing and lays out this allegation and now does not have to offer proof. In what world? Well, in this world, because here is none other than Anita. As pronounced by Judge Hirchner back in 1991, Anita Hill. Good Morning America today with George Stephanopoulos. Yeah, she's so traumatized. Anita Hill still quivering in fear, cowering in the corners over what happened to her. Stephanopoulos said, you've said that Judge Kavanaugh bears the burden of persuasion here. What does that mean exactly?
It is an honor and a privilege to be nominated and to serve. It is not an entitlement. And so a person coming into that position on the Supreme Court for a lifetime really has to have the full confidence of the American public. We need to be able to believe in the integrity of our courts, and that means believing in the integrity of the individuals who are on it.
Stephanopoulos said, your hearings famously came just 5 days after the allegations went public.
These take time to evolve. So 6 days is not enough for the senators who probably know very little about these kinds of claims.
Right.
It's not enough for them to inform themselves. And so that's why it's important to have an investigation.
See?
It's important for them then to call on experts to help them shape credible questions to ask both Dr. Blasey and Judge Kavanaugh, and then to move forward. There is no reason for them to rush this.
The hell there isn't. The hell there isn't. Anyway, so here you have Anita saying that the burden of persuasion is on the nominee. This guy's going to serve for life. It's up to him to convince us that he's worth it. So anybody can come along at any time and say, he abused me, he sat on top of me, he laid on top of me, he smelled of booze, he was drunk and so forth, and I've been traumatized for 36 years. And that, with no evidence backing it up, can stop everything. And that's where we are. Craft questions. Investigators can craft questions. Meanwhile, she doesn't want to show up. She's got an open invitation to show up. By the way, not just in public. If she wants to testify behind closed doors, they've offered that. Grassley, according to an anonymous source at CNN, Grassley's even willing to go to California to interview her. United States Senate Judiciary Committee on the road. When's the last time you think that ever happened?
Somebody has to have the guts to say it. Rush on the EI.
Folks, as we sit here today, this is September 19th, you realize there's not a single reason to send flowers to anybody today. There's not a single, well, unless there is a birthday out there. But I mean in terms of a national event like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Gay Marriage Day, whatever, there isn't one of those. There's not a single reason to send anybody flowers today, which is exactly why you should do it. It is one of the most perfect times. In fact, I would say that sending flowers to somebody today might have a greater positive impact on them than on a Mother's Day or Father's Day or anniversary or what have you. Precisely because it's unexpected. And precisely because it's unexpected that you took the time to think about it. Whoa! This could be big. It is the ideal time. Sending flowers anytime for any reason is always a positive, and it always works. Sending flowers just because will be appreciated beyond your ability to understand it right now. 1-800-Flowers makes it easy to do, especially roses. 1-800-Flowers has a way of sending flowers freshly cut from the field on the day you order them for delivery so that your gift of roses stays fresh and beautiful and aromatic. For those of you in Rio, that means sweet smelling for many days. You can order easily 24/7 from 1-800-Flowers.com/rush. Just as easy to do from your computer as it is from your phone these days. 1-800-Flowers.com/rush. I'm not kidding. If you've had an argument recently, if nothing's going, if you just out of the blue, folks, such a great thing to do, so tremendously appreciated. I mean, it works every time. I don't mean that to sound like there's a function behind it, but they work. You want to show somebody you're thinking about them and care about them, that does it. This does it. John Danforth, senator from Missouri, big friend of Clarence Thomas, loved Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas worked for him. He sponsored Clarence Thomas. He remembers the Anita Hill Thomas hearings. He was on Wolf Blitzer this afternoon. Jim Acosta accosted him, said, you were against a delay in the Thomas hearings. Do you think a delay now is out of order? Is it unacceptable in your view?
What I said back then, and it definitely was true, was that the whole thing was torture. And for a human being, Clarence, obviously controversial, but he was a friend of mine, and he was, everything that he lived for was under attack. You know, it was really awful, and he was just humiliated by the whole darned experience. And so this is like reliving that. I don't know Judge Kavanaugh, But for him, I mean, here's a man who's had just a sterling reputation, and clearly his reputation means a great deal to him, and now all of that's in the trash.
All of that is in the trash. Precisely. It's all in the trash. And the left is happy. The left is applauding. By the way, folks, if you think that you can encounter a liberal or a leftist and have a rational discussion with them about this, I want to warn you in advance, you can't. Now, there are exceptions to everything, but my experience, guided by intelligence, is that you do not want the frustration of trying to discuss this reasonably. You, as a decent person, are going to be talking to someone who is poisoned with political hatred for Donald Trump and thus is incapable of reason and is more easily led to believe that Brett Kavanaugh is scum than the truth about Brett Kavanaugh. So if you're going to try it, just be warned. It's not going to turn out the way you think.
Rush Limbaugh.